Marcus has always considered himself a man in control of his life. He built a successful company, had a steady income, and a stylish penthouse in downtown Chicago. But despite all his achievements, he lacked true intimacy. That's why when he met Bella on Tinder, it seemed like a gift from fate. Bella was charming. Her brilliant mind and light humor instantly won Marcus over. Their conversations lasted for hours, and in a short time, he realized that he wanted more than just a meeting. Bella seemed like the perfect partner, caring, attentive, and supportive. A few months later, they started living together. Bella quickly adapted to his lifestyle. She suggested ideas for business, helped organize meetings with partners, and even gained access to his finances to make it easier to run the business together. Marcus believed he had finally found someone with whom he could build a future. However, over time, small details began to make him suspicious. Bella often stayed late at meetings, which she explained as personal business. One day, Marcus noticed a large transaction that he did not approve of. When he asked her about it, Bella smiled lightly and said it was a payment for the decor of their new home. Her explanation seemed logical to him, but his anxiety persisted. Marcus decided to start keeping a closer eye on his finances. He checked the accounts and saw several transactions that didn't fit their spending style. The amounts were significant, but they were spread out in small payments to avoid arousing suspicion. This made him wonder, could he trust his money to someone he had only known for a few months? The next straw was an incident at work. His business partner, Ethan, started acting strangely. He avoided direct communication with Marcus, and during meetings his answers were vague. Marcus had a feeling that something was going on behind his back, but he couldn't figure out what it was. Mark could no longer ignore the anxiety that was gnawing at him from the inside. After a casual check of the accounts, he realized that his trust in Bella was seriously threatened. Not wanting to jump to conclusions, Mark decided to launch his own investigation. The first step was to establish the details of the transactions. He contacted his bank to get a full statement for the last 6 months. Looking through the records, Mark found dozens of suspicious payments. These amounts were transferred to an account he knew nothing about. Mark began to put together a puzzle that gradually revealed the truth. Not only was Bella spending his money, but she was also playing a parallel game. Marcus remembered his meetings with Ethan and decided to take a closer look at his business partner. Ethan had been with him since the beginning of the company, and their relationship had always seemed professional. But now, given Ethan's strange behavior, Mark began to notice little things that had previously escaped his notice. The biggest suspicion was that Ethan suddenly needed more control over the financial aspects of their business. He was constantly pushing for new contractors and changes to contracts. Mark had a hunch that Ethan and Bella might be working together, but he lacked proof. One night, Mark came home earlier than usual. He knew something was wrong when he saw the bedroom door slightly ajar and muffled voices coming from the bathroom. His heart began to race. He slowly walked closer so as not to give himself away. As he stopped at the bathroom door, Mark heard Bella laughing and a male voice that sounded like Ethan's. The sound made his blood run cold. He opened the door sharply and was confronted with a scene that shattered all vestiges of trust. Bella and Ethan were in the bathroom together. They both froze when they saw Mark, but it was too late to deny anything. Their faces expressed shock and fear, while Mark had only one feeling: rage. "You too. Is this real?" His voice was low but filled with anger. Bella tried to say something, but Mark raised his hand to stop her. "Shut up. I can see everything myself." Ethan, who had always seemed confident, now stood without a word, avoiding Mark's gaze. But Mark no longer needed their explanations. He turned and walked out without waiting for answers. This scene was the last straw. After that, Mark decided to act. Not wanting to give away his suspicions, he turned to a private detective. He explained the situation and asked to find any connections between Bella, Ethan, and the suspicious transactions. For 2 weeks, the detective collected information, and his report was devastating. According to the data collected, Bella and Ethan met secretly several times. The detective also found out that the money withdrawn from Mark's account was transferred to an offshore account owned by Bella. But the worst part was that Bella and Ethan were planning to accuse Mark of misappropriating the company's funds in order to take over his share of the business. The detective's report made Mark think about how to proceed. He realized that a direct confrontation could backfire, as Ethan had a lot of influence among investors. So he decided to play it smart. Marcus began collecting additional evidence to prove his innocence and expose Bella and Ethan's conspiracy. He prepared copies of bank records, emails, and even intercepted messages between them. Having collected enough material, he organized a meeting with the company's key investors. At the meeting, Ethan and Bella tried to discredit Marcus by accusing him of financial fraud. But it was then that Marcus presented the evidence he had collected. Each fact was carefully confirmed, and Ethan and Bella's faces quickly changed from confidence to panic. Ethan and Bella lost everything. Investors immediately withdrew their support, and the company initiated legal action against them. Bella fled the city in an attempt to avoid responsibility, but Marcus made every effort to bring her to justice. He also filed a lawsuit against Ethan, which resulted in large fines for his former partner. Marcus rebuilt the company, but now with a new team he could trust. This experience taught him to value not only professional transparency, but also emotional transparency. Despite everything, he had no regrets about the story, as it made him stronger and more cautious. Marcus sat in his apartment, surrounded by documents and evidence. The scene he'd witnessed in the bathroom burned in his mind, making him want to finish the game that Bella and Ethan had started. He no longer felt pain, only cold calculation. The next day, Marcus organized a meeting with his company's investors. Bella and Ethan had been preparing for months to present Marcus in the worst possible light, and they were confident that the plan would work. Little did they realize that he was several steps ahead of them. When everyone gathered in the conference room, Marcus made a speech that put everyone on alert. Today I would like to disclose a few facts about our company's financial situation, he began, looking directly at Ethan. Bella sat next to him, feigning innocence, but her tense posture betrayed her anxiety. Marcus presented the detective report, which included evidence of financial fraud, call records, and even video footage taken by the detective. Every piece of evidence was irrefutable. The investors, who had been hesitant to listen to Ethan, now looked at him with disdain. "It's not true," Ethan exclaimed, trying to interrupt Marcus. But his voice was trembling, and even Bella could not support him. She remained silent, looking down, realizing that it was over. Marcus ended the meeting by saying that he would initiate legal action against Ethan and Bella. His words sounded like a sentence. The investors withdrew their support for Ethan, and Bella left the building, avoiding the eyes of everyone present. 3 months have passed since Bella and Ethan were exposed. Marcus has won the court case against them, securing not only the return of the stolen funds but also the restoration of his company's reputation. Bella tried to flee the country, but was stopped at the border. Ethan, in turn, was forced to pay a huge fine and went bankrupt. Their partnership, built on betrayal and greed, collapsed as quickly as their plans. Marcus, now free of intrigue, decided to change his life. He realized that he needed new beginnings and people he could trust. The first step was to renew the management team in the company. He invited honest and talented people who helped him strengthen the business after the crisis. Marcus also drew conclusions personally. He started working with a psychologist to overcome the emotional trauma caused by the betrayal. These sessions helped him to see not only his weaknesses, but also to understand how to avoid such mistakes in the future. He learned not only to trust, but also to verify. One day, Marcus received a letter. It was a note from Bella apologizing. She wrote that she regretted everything she had done and did not try to justify her actions. Marcus looked at these lines for a long time, but finally decided not to answer. Her words could not change the past. A year later, Marcus stood in front of a large room filled with investors. His company had not only recovered, but had become a leader in its industry. In his speech, he spoke about the importance of trust, transparency, and the power of recovery from betrayal. This experience has taught me that sometimes losses are just the beginning of something new, he said, looking out into the crowd. Each of us can fall, but how we get back up determines our future. The room erupted in applause. Marcus smiled, feeling that he had truly won, not only his enemies, but himself.